Don, we have a guest right on right away. Want to bring him right on. He's a busy guy, so why don't you introduce him?
Yeah, I got out of the car about 15 minutes ago and back here in Sarasota, but our friend Larry Bowa, I couldn't think of a better person to talk to about a very controversial play involving Chase Utley. So rather than my making it a definitive answer about it, Larry, what do you think?
Well, first of all, Don, I've done about 5 shows today, and I told all the hosts, you probably asking the wrong guy because that stuff happened every night when we played. So,
you say that, and that, pretty much the veterans,
yeah,
and even Terry Collins, to be honest with you, he talks about old school and the way things should be done, and he was not that critical. I mean, everybody else was, but
right.
He sort of feels like you do.
Yeah, you know what, Don? I looked at that play, and the only thing that I think that maybe should have done differently, he slid late. But most of the blame to me, it's like the Buster Posey play at home.
Right.
Posey put himself in a bad position catching the ball. Tejada put himself in a terrible position. First of all, it was not a double play ball. His back was completely turned to the runner, and there's no way he's going to do a 360 and make a double play. If you play shortstop long enough in that play right there, you get the out and get out of the way. For some reason, he thought he was going to make a double play, and Utley did what. If you put a Met runner there in the situation will reverse, the Mets were behind 2-1, and they had a chance to break up a double play. That's exactly what they would have done. And for me, a dirty play is when you try to hurt somebody. And I've been around Utley for a long time. He never tries to hurt somebody. He plays the game extremely hard. As I said, the one thing, if he could do over, is slide a little earlier. That's the only thing that I saw was a little bit out of character. But other than that, he did. If you get 100 baseball players and ask them if they're in the playoffs and the team's lethargic and you're losing 2-1, and you have runners on first and third with one out, what do you try to do? And try to break up a double play.
Larry, the one thing I brought up on a couple of shows today when people called me about it, and I said this, I said, unless you know the way Chase Utley plays, and he's always played as hard as he could possibly play every single game, never took a day off. And the second thing is, when they talked about him trying to intentionally hurt somebody, who has recovered from more injuries and had more trouble trying to come back and play this last couple of years than Chase Utley? There's no way he would try to hurt somebody.
No, not at all. It's the thing that might be nobody talks about the play at Pittsburgh when the Cubs in Pittsburgh were playing and they lost their shortstop. The fact remains that it was a big part of the ball game. It turned the whole momentum swing around for that game.
Right.
Obviously, they're tied at 1-1 going into the night. But again, I've been around him for a long time. He plays the game hard. When he gets the ball back to the pitcher, he sprints to first base. He sprints to his position. He was taught that way. And again, I think the shortstop should have used a little more common sense. Is knowing if you play that position long enough, you know what's a double play ball and what's not. And he put himself in harm's way when he turned his back to the runner and then tried to do a complete 360 and throw the ball. And that's where all the problems started.
Doug, I know you've got a question or two. Go to it.
I was going to say, Larry, I agree with you there. I've been watching some of the, the vintage World Series games on YouTube, going back to the '69 Mets, and then some of the ones in the '70s, and you saw quite a few of those type of plays back then, and nobody thought anything, any second thoughts about it. It just, I guess, the whole game is changing. I'm not sure for the better, but and the whole Buster Posey thing too with the home plate. What do you think of that?
Right, it's definitely changed. I mean. And I guess, when these owners are paying that kind of money, they want to see their product on the field, not on the disabled list. So they have a play to protect the catcher, and I guarantee, well, I'm not going to guarantee, but I would assume by next spring training there'll be a play, a rule out there to protect the shortstop and second baseman. You have to slide straight to the bag. You can't deviate one way or the other because they're going to have to protect the shortstop and second baseman. So I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, but if you're an owner and you have a lot of money invested, you want your product on the field, and you don't want them on a 60-day disabled list or going into the operating room getting his leg operated on. So, in that facet, the game has definitely changed that way.
Well, Larry, somebody you also know extremely well and played with for such a long period of time, Timmy McCarver, and he's been lobbying for quite some number of years now about protecting the catchers because they were so vulnerable. You go back to Fossey and all the rest of the catchers that have been hit. and they did make a change there. We're giving clearance to slide into the plate. So I think you're right. I think they're going to address this as well.
Right. And, you know, the one thing about a shortstop and second baseman, the rule they have in there now is if you can touch the bag with your hand, body length away, they're going to allow it. But I guess now that after reviewing this, they're probably going to make it even more going to the bag straight in, and that's how they're going to handle it. Otherwise, it would be an automatic double play. You know, I think the big thing that happened the other night is that once that ball was hit, it wasn't what you call a line. It was a semi-line drive. It wasn't like a one-hop line drive where he would have had a lot of time to hit the bag and then turn the double play. He sort of got jammed on that pitch, and if you're aware of who the base runner is, Tejada knows Utley plays hard, and he also knows that Kendrick's not a slug when he's running. He's an average runner to first base. And you take all that and you put it in your computer when you play in the middle of the infield and you say, you know what, this isn't a double play ball. So, but hopefully he rebounds and we'll see him in spring training. I thought he did a good job as a shortstop for the Mets, but things happen. You know, when things happen, everyone jumps to conclusions. I guarantee that if the roles were reversed, the guy that broke up the double play for the Mets would have got a standing ovation tonight when they introduced the two teams on the line.
I agree. The other thing, Keith Hernandez was very, very outspoken about the play, not from any position that was established by anyone else. And I asked you this question from 2 points of view. One, the play, but secondly, he felt there should have been interference called, and both runners should have been out, and the inning should have been over. What do you think about that?
Well, there is. If the umpire feels that it was interference, he can call automatic double play. But if you look at the replay, he was within. You know, like if he wasn't within an arm's length or a body length of second base, I'm sure they would have called automatic double play. But he was. He could have touched the bag with his arm or his leg. So that's where that comes into play. But you know, that's an umpire's decision right there. I do think they're going to have a hard time keeping the suspension up, because if you go back and review all the guys that broke up double plays, nobody ever got suspended, let alone suspended in the magnitude of these games. I just don't think it's going to happen. I know the Players Association is gathering all the information, and for sure tonight he's not suspended, so I'm sure they're going to try to get to this decision as quickly as possible. But I find it very difficult to see that this is going to stand up.
Well, two things. I agree. I think they're definitely going to appeal this. And secondly, how many umpires do you know, and especially with the umpiring at the level it is right now, how many of them are going to have the nerve to call interference on that particular play?
Yeah, I don't think you would. I mean, unless it was blatant. And to me, the only thing that was really bad about that is he slid late. That's the only thing.
Right.
And but other than that, and again, you've seen him play. He plays hard. He doesn't play dirty. He plays hard.
Right.
There's a difference between playing dirty and playing hard.
Doug?
I keep thinking of the great Ty Cobb looking down from heaven, maybe even Jackie Robinson saying, "What's the fuss all about?"
If you go back into the 70s and 80s, you're going to see some guys breaking up double plays, and they're going to say, "Oh my God!" That's just the way the game was played. I mean, we used to play like that, and I don't think anybody tried to hurt anybody. Hey, your job, and you're talking Little League, break up a double play, especially if you got a guy on third base, if you got a chance to score a run. That's what you're taught to do. And again, there's ways to do it. I mean, I've seen guys literally go in standing up when we played, and you had no recourse but to throw the ball. And if they got hit, they got hit. But the game is definitely, like you said, changed. There's more money involved. High draft picks now. They get money before they even put a big league uniform on. So those owners and general managers want to see that product on the field. They don't want to see them on the St. Louis.
Well, you played the Mets the last couple of games, 3 games of the season, and had very great success. But how about these young pitchers that the Mets have brought up? I mean, they've got 4 or 5 guys that look like the real goods.
They don't look. They are good. They're real good. And it's very difficult to put at-bats together when you're throwing the ball close to 100 miles an hour and get secondary pitches over. They have, barring any injuries, that rotation is going to be very difficult to deal with in the National League East, no matter who you are, whether you're the Marlins, the Washington Ball Club, the Phillies, Atlanta Braves. That's a rotation that's deep. They all have tremendous arms. They are all high picks. and they have the ability to throw strikes. A lot of guys that throw that hard can't throw the ball over the plate, but these guys throw the ball over the plate with great velocity, and they have great secondary pitches. So the Dodgers have their hands filled. I do think that tonight's game's a pivotal game, but I don't think whoever wins, because I think Kershaw and Greinke are going to both come back. And, of course, the two big boys for at least one of those guys is going to come back for the Mets. So I think they're going to stay with a 5-man rotation.
Well, when you took a little bit of a hiatus from MLB, nobody was a bigger supporter of Kershaw. I can remember the first couple of nights that you were on having discussions with who the other talent was, whether it was the Wild Thing Waves or who it was. Boy, you were really in Kershaw's corner right from the beginning.
Yeah, this kid is not it. I know he's had some tough times in the playoffs. It seems like that 7th inning is that one inning that gets to him. But, I expect this guy to bounce back. He had a rough inning the other night. That was very not Kershaw-like when he walked 3 guys in that one inning. So, but you'd really like this guy, Don. His work ethic is second to none. He's the first guy at the park. He's a tremendous teammate. He's very humble. He's got tremendous stuff. And I saw him when he first came up and couldn't throw a strike for anything. And then all of a sudden you could see this guy, the maturation process start, and the velocity, the curveball, the Sandy Koufax breaking ball, the poise on the mound. You see something special. Again, he's another guy, barring any injuries. He's got a great career ahead of him.
Doug, last question from you, and I'll jump in with one last one, and we'll let Barry go back to watch the ball game.
I was going to say, Matt Harvey's another one that Mets fans have been waiting for to come through, the Tom Seaver of today. A lot of controversy the last couple of months with him, but this is his opportunity tonight, isn't it, Larry?
There's no question. This is a big game for him. I mean, they literally, Terry Collins just talked in his interviews about, Game 3 is a pivotal game, and I want my best pitcher out there. I don't know if you can rate who's the best. To me, when you have 3 guys like that, they're all the best. So, but he's one of those guys that you want to put the ball in his hand. He finds a way to get it done. The stuff about the innings and that's up to the GMs and the owners of the ball club. Again, a lot of money involved. They don't want to see somebody after a year removed from Tommy John go out there and throw over 200 innings. So obviously he's been well monitored, but I'm sure tonight that pitch count might be raised just a little bit, especially if he's throwing the ball exceptionally well.
Larry, you fellas in Philly had a very, very tough year this year, and my last question would be, I really sort of had a feeling for Ryan Sandberg. I remember when he first came up with the Phillies and then the great years he had in Chicago, and I thought Chicago, to be very honest with you, was grooming him and grooming and grooming. I thought he was going to take over the Chicago program. But when he came to Philly, maybe a little unexpectedly, just felt badly that his feet never really got on the ground.
Yeah, Don, he's really a good baseball guy, and things that he had a great success in the minor leagues, and I think the biggest adjustment he had to make was that the guy's attitude-wise in the minor leagues is a lot different than once you get to the big leagues. But he caught everybody by surprise when he resigned, and caught me definitely by surprise. But he's a good baseball guy, and he liked to win. He liked to win a lot.
Oh, boy.
I guess it was just wearing on him, and he felt it was best for he and his family to end it right there. So it was tough to see, but again, I look back at the days I played with him, and we went over in a trade together, and he's a tremendous baseball player.
Well, I'll tell you, the only playoff game so far, or playoff series that surprised me a little bit, I thought Toronto would get off a better start, especially playing at home, and I saw them play a lot of games this year, and boy, they've got such a lineup, but they just weren't able to put it together in the early part of this playoff series.
Yeah, but they've righted the ship, though. They're going to be even going back to Toronto, so
right.
It should be a good Game 5. What's good about baseball, you got 2 Game 5s for sure in the Kansas City, Houston, and now Toronto and Texas, and that's what it's all about. Game 5s are the last games of the Game 7. That's what makes this game so much fun. I mean, I bet a lot of those Houston fans are a little deja vu today. They remember Nolan Ryan having a 5-2 lead going in the 8th inning against the Phillies in 80, and this happened again today in the 8th inning with the Kansas City Royals. So I'm sure that they're beating their heads against the wall saying, what do we have to do to get out of this 8th inning?
Well, I'll tell you, we really miss you on MLB. You and the Wild Thing did a terrific job. I was sorry to see him move out of there as well. That was too bad because he was really entertaining, and the other thing was that he was very honest. I mean,
Yeah, he was.
he really told you what was happening, and every night that he was on, he was as honest as you could be.
You're right. You know, he's very knowledgeable. So it was a shame what happened, but I thought he did a great job when he was on there.
Larry, thank you so very much on short notice to jump in with Doug and I, and I'll see you when you come there. Are you down in Florida now, or are you still in Philly?
I'm in Philly right now. You know, we're probably going to have some organizational meetings towards the end of this month. So
okay,
we'll
I'll see you when you get back down to the Sarasota, Clearwater area, and thank you so very, very much for spending a little bit of time with us.
All right,